Discover Mongolia Forum 2018 Minerals and Mining Business Summit.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for the introduction, Datsu. I'm not sure how much credit I can take for the French, but maybe a little bit on the English. So, for those of you not familiar with our company, we've been focused on southwestern Mongolia for almost a decade, looking for large copper porphyry and epithermal gold deposits. This work has been largely organic grassroots exploration that started with satellite imagery down to boot and the hammer. And I'll get into that today. But that hard work, that patient, methodical regional exploration is now starting to pay off. We are now about to announce our third deposit in that region, now with 2 high-grade gold deposits and a large molybdenum copper deposit, and a proprietary database that really sets us apart from the rest of the explorers out there in this part of Mongolia, and having a leg up and having that pipeline of opportunity that we can draw from as we move forward. So what makes us unique? As I just mentioned, the new copper gold district, lots of people talk about new districts, but this is something special. We're in one of the best belts in the world, the central orogenic belt that runs through from Central Asia through Mongolia. And where it passes through southwestern Mongolia has never seen modern regional exploration. We went out there 10 years ago and we've dedicated millions and millions of dollars into pure regional exploration. And that information, that database now will sit with our company as we start to develop these 2 high-grade deposits, and it'll be our anchor to begin to acquire and explore other areas in this belt. What's also unique about these 2 high-grade deposits is the fact that they're not just near surface, they're at surface. These are 2 high-grade systems that are exposed at the surface of the Earth, and that also bodes well for future exploration. You know, I think we're a good geologic team, but I'm not sure we're so good that we found the only 2 deposits sticking through the earth in this part of the country. And the other special thing about the Bayan project in particular is a very simple ore. It has very high recoveries, and that'll bode well for the economics. And to top it off, and get into this in some detail as I will each of those key points, we have an exceptional team, a team that's been together for the better part of 15, 20 years, a team that's technically astute, but very passionate about making a difference in this country, passionate about the environment, about the communities in which we work, and that's something that we're very proud of, and something that we'll continue to develop as we move forward. So, a couple of key elements about the company. We've been active in the Bayan area for 10 years, but in fact I've been working in Mongolia for 21 years. I came into the country in 1997 with that first wave of explorationists, and saw the opportunity geologically, market-wise, and really came to appreciate the country and the people, and made a decision some years later to create Erdene, which we now have been listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange for 14 years. Speaking of listing, we also became the first cross-listed company on the Mongolian Exchange this year. We now have 6,000 Mongolian shareholders, and we trade on the Mongolian Stock Exchange. So we have a strong shareholder base. We have that large proprietary technical database as well. And just to flip gears a little bit and talk about Mongolia, Mongolia's economy has now started to pick up once again. Its growth rate in the first quarter was over 6%. It has a reasonably attractive tax regime with a 25% corporate tax rate, and for the gold side, an attractive royalty rate as well at 2.5%. So coming back to the people, you know, I think when you're looking at investment propositions in our industry, it really is all about the people. You know, the projects are important, but you have to have the right people you can trust. And I'm very proud of the team that we've built. Many of you in this room would know our key team members here in Mongolia. Bill Goon, Erdene is one of the top geologists, I believe, in the country, and he's developed a good young team behind him. Bayarma has been with us for 12 years, and I think one of the top CAOs in the Mongolian mining industry. And Billy I've worked with for 21 years. He's our rock in Bayan and works very closely with the community. And that's backed up by a strong staff as well on the expat side with Michael Gillis and John Lyons here in Mongolia. And that's just some of the core members of the team. We employ 14 people full-time here in Ulaanbaatar. And Beyond that, a board of directors that also carries that corporate DNA, if you will. People that have strong experience here in Mongolia but have a real passion for Mongolia. We have Canada's first ambassador to the country, Dr. Anna Bielik, Leighton Croft, Cameron McRae has joined us this year, Chris Cowan, who started this company with me, David Mosier, who's built and operated mines in Africa and Russia, and John Burns, who's on the finance side, with a very strong, well-balanced board. On the corporate side, we are listed on the TSX. We have a market capitalization of approximately $46 million US, and we're well funded into 2019. So this is where we're located, a newly discovered district in southwestern Mongolia. We call the area specifically around the gold projects the Hundi district, and you can see where Altanar is located in the north and Bayan Hundi in the south is that collection of projects. In addition to the work we're doing on these specific licenses, we're also partnered with Teck Resources. Teck is Canada's largest diversified mining company, and we're looking at a number of acquisitions in the Trans-Altai Belt in conjunction with Teck and Alliance. So let me jump into the Bayan Hundi gold project. As I mentioned, this is a high-grade gold system coming to surface with excellent recoveries. This is the work we've done since we made this discovery in 2015. At the time this slide was developed, there was 225 holes. We now have 258 holes and 43 kilometers of drilling completed in a relatively short period of time. Over the next few weeks, you'll see the first resource estimate come out on this project, and as we move forward into the latter parts of this year, begin to get into the mining license application and resource estimation in Mongolia. One of the real keys to this deposit is grade, as I mentioned. And when you look through this entire body of drilling results, over a kilometer strike length, almost 20% of the holes have intersections of over an ounce of gold. You know, for those of you not familiar with the mining business, to find that grade of gold at surface is almost unheard of in the world today, when the average grade of deposits is below 1 gram. And this exists because it's been isolated from exploration. If this was in Ontario or Nevada or South Africa, it would have been mined out as soon as they found it. So it's a very unique deposit in the sense that it's high grade near surface. This is a cross-section through that system. This is a kilometer-long collection of the intersections that we've made. You can see a low-grade shell enveloping these very high-grade cores. But when you cast your eye over these intersections continuously in what we call striker midfield and midfield north, you're seeing 30, 50, 80 meters of 5-6 gram material. You know, these are grades that you go down half a kilometer or a kilometer for in mature mining districts. In South Africa, you're down 3.9 kilometers to reach high grades of gold. So again, just driving home that exception, that unique situation of finding high grades at surface. And this is an example of one of those areas that we would key in on for our initial development. This is the midfield zone, which sits about 50 millimeters below surface, the high-grade core does. But here you can see repeated holes of that 50, 60, 80 meters of 3 to 5 grams. In fact, in one of the adjoining zones here, and I have a photograph coming up shortly, we intersected up to 2,200 grams of gold over 1 meter in the north midfield zone. And there it is. So this is a slide that demonstrates the average grade of gold deposits globally today. This is the top 100 gold deposits that produce over 70,000 ounces of gold annually. And you can see where that average gold grade currently sits at 1 gram. We would expect when we come up with our total resources for Altanar and Bayan Hundi to be in the upper quartile, or perhaps even decile of this chart, so that we'd be producing grades in excess of 2 grams per ton, perhaps up into the 3 gram per ton range. And you know, this gets into a little bit of the details around these, the economics of these deposits, but it's great to have grade. You need to get it out of the rock, and you need to have high recoveries. And that's one of the real beauties about the Bayan Hundi deposit, is simple metallurgy. This isn't complicated by a lot of pyrite or arsenopyrite. It's a very clean ore, and therefore recoveries are in that 92 to 99% range. Over to the Altanar project, again, a high-grade deposit exposed at surface. I'd say the unique thing about this deposit is just how big it is. We've only done limited exploration on this field. It's 5.6 kilometers long. It has 18 targets, only a few of which we've explored in detail. And within the areas that we have explored in detail, we've already established 500,000 ounces of gold at about 2 grams per ton. So this is a very, very large system, and already a clear high-grade deposit exists within the two main bodies. And this gives you a sense in section of what one of those looks like. This is the discovery zone. The discovery zone has core grades of up to 60 grams per ton over 14 meters. Exceptionally high grade, again, within the top 50 meters of surface. These types of deposits, relative to Bayan Hyundai, which tend to be 150 to 300 meters in depth, vertical depth, these types of deposits can have great vertical extent. They're more positioned in that field between low sulfidation and porphyries, and can be 600, 800 meters deep. And you see two examples of these types of deposits, Kalian in Indonesia and Porgera, which Barrick controls. They can also be quite large, as you can see in those examples, in the 16 million ounce size range. So those are the two anchors as we start to move into development, which I'll come back to in a moment. But this is also about district scale. And I talked about it earlier. We have a proprietary database. We have a pipeline of projects both on our licenses and in the region that we'll continue to explore. We have just started drilling yesterday on the Ulan copper project. This sits directly adjacent to Bayan Hyundai, and we believe may be part of that footprint of mineralization, this being the core of the heap, and Bayan Hyundai around the edges of it. You can see in the bottom of the slide a very strong geophysical anomaly that currently has a drill hole aiming towards it. Coming back to the path forward, we see ourselves as a company now with two routes, or dual objectives. And one is to take what we've targeted as the first 1.5 million ounce resource and begin to de-risk that, to take it through the resource, the economic studies, the mining license, right through to development in 2020, 2021. At the same time, we'll be carrying out continued methodical patient exploration on these licenses and throughout this district with an objective of getting us up into that 3 million ounce plus range, which I think is highly probable given the limited amount of exploration that's taking place and the high prospectivity and fertility in this district. A couple of the key elements that we are looking at as we move through the de-risking stage. The permitting work's been going on for 2 years. We've completed the baseline work. We're now in an area that once was considered remote and infrastructurally challenged, now has blacktop highways and railways within 200 kilometers and a major rail center. We're working closely with the IFC this year on looking at solar power per site. That study's complete, and we're now getting into some more advanced work. We've identified a water resource in the area. We worked very closely with the local community with cooperation agreements with Bayan Hungor, scholarships annually for local students, and last year worked very closely with the Sioux and Shinjins to find our first potable water source. So those things are all very integral to our work with the local community. Just a graphic on that proximity to the local border crossing. And here's a conceptual design of what we see as the development plan for this district. Altanar in the north, you have 2 pits that have now been brought into the 43101 stage. You have a water pipeline in Hollywood that takes that ore and water down to the plant at Bayan Hyundai with a development of the Bayan Hyundai pit, which you can see there in the southeastern part of the slide. So how does an exploration company move into the mining stage? You bring on board the people that have done it before. Cameron McRae joined the board this year. Julian Lawrence, I think, is with us in the audience today, has built 3 mines in Mongolia. He's, I think, one of the top engineering people we could have on board. Paul Corp, who's been an advisor to us, very important part of the Border story. David Moser, Chris Cowan, these are mine builders. They've done it before, and we look forward to helping us do it again. Milestones, as I mentioned, maiden resource within the next few weeks. PDA shortly follows in Q4. Regional drilling results expected to come out. In fact, the Ulan results could be out in early October. Moving right into the mining pre-feasibility work and into bankable late next year into 2020. A couple of closing slides. We have a corporate culture that starts with the top. Every board meeting starts with a review of health, safety, environment, community, and I expect that to carry right through to the people in the field. We, however, recognize that it's not just that corporate decision-making, it's in every individual to make a difference in these 4 key areas. And we try to instill that in our employees. We try to make sure that the training is available to all employees to carry out that work effectively. We're very proud of the staff. not because they adhere to their corporate policy, because it's part of their DNA to make a difference out there in the field and in the communities in which we work. And in closing, let me just sum up with a look at the gold industry today. There has been a rapid decline in the number of discoveries over the last 20 years, and just this past week we've seen some statistics come out of S&P Global that is now predicting that there'll be a decline of 15% of the world's gold production by 2022. That's the equivalent of about 40 or 50 large mines in order to fill that gap. And so when you look towards that period, 2021, 2022, you can see higher gold prices as a result. You can also see a need for the world's investors in the mining industry and the gold mining industry looking for those new projects. So I think we're in a real sweet spot for development when we're looking at production in 2021 and a pipeline of projects to follow that. Thank you very much.
Discover Mongolia Forum 2018 Minerals and Mining Business Summit.